We've just noticed that our live streaming has not crashed. Just give me 2 seconds, guys. Yep, we're live streaming. Fantastic. All right, we'll put on a quick timer, and that's your opportunity to check if your guests are on with us now. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome online here in the Zoom room, and welcome online if you're watching us on YouTube and or on Facebook, and in a lot of cases, people watching us a day down the track, 2 weeks down the track, even a month down the track on this amazing call. Today, we're blessed because you're going to be hearing from our founder, Steve Scott. Just as a way of introduction, Michael First, my name, one of the founding advisory board members of NUMI. I've known Steve for nearly 20 years, and basically, Steve pioneered the glutathione research space many years ago, where I met him with a different company. Steve then had the biggest breakthrough of his entire life, and then the NUMI and HydraStat breakthrough was launched, which was about 4.5 years ago. We now have about 250,000 members across 74 countries and growing like crazy. Now, if you don't know Steve, Steve is also behind the Total Gym with Christy Brinkley and Chuck Norris. He was one of the most respected people in direct response television worldwide and has sold billions in his life. So with that in mind, today is an opportunity to be up close and personal and meet our founder, Steve Scott. So over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Michael. And it's great to be with everybody. I know what I have to start with. Nobody on this call knows what I'm going to start with. Just how many days ago? Do you know what's today's date, Michael?
20th of March here, 19th for you guys, 19th of March.
Oh, okay. So, Phoebe, I am so sorry I didn't call you on St. Patrick's Day. I missed it this year. We had too many house guests and I completely forgot. So happy belated St. Patrick's Day. And Phoebe's the one that explained to me who St. Patrick was. She, of course, is from Ireland, and explained to me who he was and what he really did of consequence. And it was of great consequence. And it took him from simply a name to a person who has really did something amazing for Ireland. And so I didn't know that before. I knew he had to be something special, but I didn't realize how amazing he really was. So, my name is Steve Scott. For those of you that don't know me, I am just an ordinary person. In fact, I wrote a book called A Millionaire's Notebook: How Ordinary People Achieve Extraordinary Success. Today, from my office, I had a copy and I showed my resume. I flunked out of 9 jobs in my first 6 years after college. How many of you in your first 6 years after any level of education failed at 9 jobs? My guess is probably I'm the only one. I actually had one person one time in a crowd of about 1,000 people raise his hand, and it was a church pastor. And but he became very, very he was amazing. A pastor I'll never forget. He was truly amazing. And he said he lost 9 jobs in probably 5 years. So I share that because I was just an ordinary person until I found some strategies, of all places, out of the book of Proverbs. A friend of mine who was the wisest man I knew, I had just lost my 5th job, and he was visiting me from the Midwest. I lived in the West. And I said, Gary, I don't understand it. I'm not stupid. I have a good IQ. I'm not lazy. I'm first in, last out at every company I worked for. I worked for one company with 3,500 people. And other than security, I was first in and last out. I'd usually get in around 7:30. The working day didn't start until 8:30, and I would usually leave around 10:30 at night. So I wasn't lazy, and yet I could not succeed no matter how hard I tried. And I said, I just lost my fifth job. I don't have enough money for even breakfast tomorrow. Uh, what do I do? Well, he said, let me pray about it, which was a very wise statement in himself. Instead of just shooting from the hip and giving me some, general advice, he really wanted to try to figure this out. So he came in the next morning all excited and he said, how would you like to be wiser than all your bosses? I was 26 years old. I'm 77 now. And I literally said to him, yeah, right. He said, no, there's something you can do if you do it for 2 years. In 2 years, you'll be wiser than all your bosses. And in 5 years, you'll probably be a millionaire. And that made me laugh because the only reason that we had food for breakfast that day was two ladies from a Bible study had anonymously left groceries on my doorstep. And I didn't find out for 30 years who did it, but I ultimately found out. and But I was that broke. And of course, anybody that loses jobs early on in their career, they have no savings, they only have debt. So you lose a job, how are you going to eat? How are you going to pay the rent and everything else? So I struggled with that. And but I took his advice, and he said there's 31 chapters in the book of Proverbs, 31 days in the month. So if today's the 20th, I would open up to chapter 20 and I would read and write down. He said, always have pen, oops, there it is, pen and paper in hand, and write down the wisdom and insights you gain, and begin to apply those to your work immediately. He said it'll change everything. So I started doing that. And in the next 18 months, I went through Proverbs about 18 times. I went through jobs number 6, 7, and 8. But on job number 9, everything came together. The strategies, I found some skill sets to apply them. What's a strategy? A strategy is simply how you approach something. So my son Ryan was a high jumper in high school and college, and he was a national champion in high school, U.S. champion. And one of the key parts of the high jump is your approach. You make this. He only takes 11 steps, but those steps get faster and faster, and then he makes a high torque turn, pops up, and goes over a bar. And in his case, he was going 9 inches over his head. And so anyway, that's an approach. It's okay, physically. Well, how do you approach a problem, an opportunity, a job, a project, a goal? That's a strategy. Now, the key part is once you've found strategies that work, is developing the skill sets to apply those strategies to those areas of life that are the most important. And fortunate for me, I had two mentors that were amazing. And those two men mentored me in skill sets that allowed me to apply those strategies. And I wasn't a millionaire in 5 years. I was a millionaire in 2.5 years. Hold on just a sec. Hey guys, we got to be real quiet because that's okay. That's my son. That's one of my, I have two, I think one or two sons here. And he's he's an underachiever, so we all feel sorry for him. He's a heart surgeon. And no, we're thrilled. All it took him was about 13 years of post-college, or let's see, is that right? No, wait. It was 4 years medical school, 5 years general surgery, 3 years cardiothoracic surgery. And when he graduated this summer, he accepted a position in Utah. And so we're thrilled to have him and his wife and their 5 children here. But these strategies, I had two mentors, and I later ran into a guy I went to high school with. And his name is Steven Spielberg, and the movie director and producer. And Spielberg, last I checked, is, hey, could somebody let the dog out or something? Mm. Um, or take her back into the, oh, she's outside. Oh, okay. Maybe let her in and put her in the master bedroom. Thank you, Devin. And live TV from our home, my home to your home. So I will understand if you have to leave this call early for any reason. And but strategies, skill sets. I got to think where I was. So
Spielberg.
I,
Spielberg.
huh?
Spielberg.
Oh yeah, thank you. So Spielberg and I went to high school and we sat next to each other at every football game. He was in the band, I was in the color guard. And we graduated, and then after graduation, didn't see him for 18 years. But in that 18 years, I had achieved all of my professional dreams. I was making a lot of money, seven figures every year. And of course, Spielberg was making eight and nine figures. I mean, he was doing, he had done, but we ran into each other at a restaurant. Sit, Nana, good old Nana. And he came over to the table. He said, I know you from somewhere, but I don't know where. Because we both had beards. We didn't have beards in high school. And I went, fight, fight, go team, go, give your all for the red and blue. And he goes, Arcadia. And I said, yeah. We sat next to each other at every football game. He said, but you weren't in the band. I said, nope. He goes, the color guard. I go, yeah. Two places you didn't want to be. His weight was 110 pounds in high school. Mine was 118. So that's the only way we could get on the football field. And, but we started to compare notes and we talked for about 45 minutes. I had found two mentors. He had found two mentors. I found a group of strategies that were amazing, miraculous in how they work, and he used the very same strategies. And they're strategies you don't think of, like effective partnering. They're not taught in school, grade school, college, graduate school, but like effective partnering. 90% of all partnerships fail, and yet nobody in history has ever achieved anything significant without partnering. No one. And I ended up reading about 200 biographies and sketches of people who had achieved their impossible dreams, going clear back to the 1700s. And they all had partners. It was amazing. And yet 90% of all partnerships fail. Why? Because they're not effective. There are certain things you have to do to have an effective partnership. Really only four skill sets. Well, job number 9, I doubled the company's sales from 30 million to 60 million in the 4 months I worked there. And with that, somebody offered to back me in business. They had $5,000 and I had a vision. And 5 months later, our sales hit $1 million a week. And about a year later, we were at $3 million a week and $4 million a week. So the strategies and skill sets that I found, the strategies and proverbs, the skill sets from mentors to apply those strategies. And Spielberg had done the exact same thing. And the next day, I was with a TV star here in America that was a big star named Michael Landon. And I told him about my meeting with Spielberg, and he says, well, tell me some of the strategies. And it turns out he used the same strategies, became the #1 television writer, actor. He batted 1,000. Every project he did was a hit for 30 years, which is really crazy in Hollywood to have to bat 1,000. And but he had used the same strategies, and yet they're not taught. So anyway, I used those strategies that I found on job number 9, and not only did I double their sales, when I told them I was leaving, the CEO of the company, a big catalog company, offered to double my salary, give me a company Mercedes, and make me vice president of marketing. And I was only 27. That's how effective these strategies are. Well, one of the keys in the strategies for business is find breakthrough products. What's a breakthrough? A breakthrough is a product that can do something that nothing else in the world that you know about or that the world knows about can do it as effectively or efficiently. And that became the cornerstone of American telecast success. And we ended up owning cosmetic companies, fitness companies, weight loss, makeup, cosmetics, skincare, hair care. And we had major celebrities. We had 93 celebrities under contract, including Academy Award winners, Grammy Award winners, Hall of Fame athletes, and all following these strategies that I found in the book of Proverbs. And one thing we do for our NUMI associates in the back office, we have a thing called, is it NUMI Academy? I think that's what it's called. And you can watch little clips, about 15-minute clips, where you learn the strategies and skill sets I'm talking about. And you can apply them to any area that's important to you. Well, when it comes to business, if you're going to sell a product, it better be a breakthrough. If you want to have a much better chance of hitting home runs. So that's what I did. I found breakthroughs. And by the time I retired, my products that I had found had done over, well, just many billions of dollars in sales. So in 2006, I meet a doctor from the Mayo Clinic. He had been an instructor with the Mayo organization, and he had his own clinic in Florida. And he introduced me, an investment banker introduced me to him. And the investment banker said, I'm going to introduce you to the biggest breakthrough of your life because I've studied you and I know breakthroughs is what you look for. And I thought, yeah, how many times have I heard this? And then he told me about this doctor. So I brought the doctor out to Chuck Norris's house in Dallas at the time. And Dr. Keller went ahead and shared with me his clinical studies and other clinical studies. It turns out glutathione is the most studied molecule in medical science. Right now, there are over 200,000 published studies. And yet most doctors that I talk to, and I get a chance to meet with and lecture doctors all over the world, most of them don't know what glutathione is. And yet, why is it the most studied? Because it makes the biggest difference in so many areas. There's not one area of your body, your anatomy, your muscles, your organs, your tissues, your joints, everything relies on glutathione. Glutathione, in fact, without glutathione, there'd be no life on Earth. All plants and trees would disappear. All oxygen-based creatures, of which humans are one, would disappear very quickly within minutes. So glutathione is a critical molecule. It's a tripeptide. It's made up of three peptides: glycine, glutamic acid, and cysteine. And those actually can come from our diet, those independent, and then the cell pieces them together, actually sews them together with a 100-step electrochemical process. And it's amazing. And they had to be in the cells on day one or the cell would die. In fact, if you even reduce glutathione in a cell, 40%, it's going to start to die. So let's talk about glutathione, because the problem with glutathione, everybody knows in science, not doctors, not medicine, everybody knows how critical it is. The scientists do, the biochemists, the molecular biologists, and so on. But what it does really makes our life. It affects every aspect of human performance, mentally, physically, every aspect of health, of maintaining your health. Do you get sick when somebody in your family gets sick? Glutathione relates to that. If you do get sick, how fast do you recover or how slowly? Glutathione relates to that. In fact, we all learned in the pandemic that the people that survived COVID had a robust immune response. What does that mean? Well, anytime your body is attacked by a virus or bacteria, your immune system kicks into gear. and it creates T cells. Those are the assassins, and actually B cells too, but T cells are the primary assassin. And those assassins attack the virus and or the bacteria. Now, the problem is that both viruses and bacteria reproduce explosively. So you get it on day one, and man, it goes to town and they start reproducing. On the other hand, your T cells, they'll produce either rapidly in response to that insult or slowly. The difference is the available glutathione. If you have high levels of glutathione, your T cells will reproduce at a much more rapid rate. There was an article that came out after the pandemic. It was in May 2020. It was in the May 2020 issue of the Journal of Infectious Diseases. And the headline of the article was Low Levels of Endogenous Glutathione as the Cause of Severe Symptoms and Death in COVID-19 Patients. And he proved his point. Now there's been a bunch of articles that have followed that. So once again, glutathione, its availability or lack of availability will determine how fast you recover from anything, even a wound, an injury, a cut, a burn. All of that needs more glutathione. So what does glutathione do? Well, we'll take a look at just a handful, probably four of the 400 things that glutathione does. So number one is oxygen transfer. Without glutathione, there'd be no oxygen transfer. So you take that nice deep breath. It feels good. It gets into your lungs. Well, the moment it gets into your lungs, the hemoglobin binds with the oxygen molecules, and then the hemoglobin delivers it to every living cell in your body. The problem is hemoglobin has iron deposits, and some of those deposits, some of those molecules are properly charged at a positive 2. The others in the hemoglobin that are in the hemoglobin, they are improperly charged. They are charged at a level of positive 3. When you've got positive 3 iron molecules in your hemoglobin, it cannot bind to oxygen. So the positive 3s have to be reduced to the positive 2s. Once that reduction takes place, they bind together, and thankfully they deliver oxygen everywhere. Well, the reduction agent for the iron in hemoglobin is glutathione. No glutathione, no reduction, no oxygen transfer, and we all die very quickly. So it impacts oxygen transfer. Every cell in your body has industrial chemicals. The CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control here in the United States, we are confronted in our environment by over 80,000 industrial chemicals. And they wanted to see, let's take a sample of 217 industrial chemicals, and let's see how many of those are in the average person. So they tested a universe of 2,000 people, and they found out that all 2,000, every single one, had all 217 industrial contaminants that they tested for. They were shocked. They thought the average person would carry around 20 or 30 or 40. They all had everyone they tested for. Who knows what they would have found if they had tested for 300, 400, 500, 1,000. But it was very surprising, very shocking. Well, glutathione is the detoxifier of the cell. The cysteine portion of glutathione has what's called a sulfhydryl arm. And that arm is real sticky, and it sticks to the contaminant, and then glutathione gets rid of it. Okay, so it carries the contaminant out. So glutathione is the detoxifier of the human cell. There was a microbiologist, brilliant, highly acclaimed microbiologist out of Emory University. His name is Dean Jones. And he was addressing a cancer prevention symposium. And here's the statement he made. He said, if we want to prevent more cancer, we want to prevent people at a higher level from getting cancer, we must find ways to get more glutathione into the cell. And then he said, let me explain. 95% of all cancers gain traction in the human body due to the broken mitochondrial DNA. What breaks the mitochondrial DNA is the chemical load in the cell. Now, free radicals also can do it, but that's the primary cause, is the chemical load in the cell. He said glutathione is the detoxifier of the cell. So if we can find ways to raise glutathione levels in the cell, it will lower the toxic or the chemical load and thereby prolong the integrity of the mitochondrial DNA. And that's what we want to do. He says, problem is you can't get glutathione through the stomach, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So that's the second thing that glutathione does out of 400 is detoxification. What else? Well, it is the primary, well, let me not say primary. It is your body's master antioxidant. Michael, let's show them what 20,000 looks like. Every cell in your body is, no, okay, there you go, is attacked by minimally 20,000 free radicals a day, some by as many as 100,000 free radicals a day. So it's one cell against 20,000. This is 20,000 people in the Chicago Bulls arena basketball team. And if you were the only person on that basketball court and the announcer says, okay, I'm going to pay everybody, you're going to pick up $1,000 today. If you can just get down there and hit that guy one time, instantly, in fact, if we said $1,000,000, you'd see the people crowding onto the floor to take a chance at landing a blow. Well, that's what every cell in your body goes through every single day. It's 1 against 20,000. In a 5-day period, minimally, it's 1 against 100,000. Show them what 100,000 looks like. So now you're on the football field, and imagine you against all those people. That's what every cell in your body, your heart cells, your brain cells, the cells of the tissues that make up your eye, your skin, they all go through this radical attack. Now, what do free radicals do? They want to steal a free electron from the cell. They're scavengers. When they steal that electron, it creates oxidative stress. And that oxidative stress is really bad. In fact, that oxidative stress by itself opens the gateway to over 78 disease classes. In fact, Dr. Mehmet Oz, the Harvard heart surgeon, made a statement on a show one time. He said, this was the tease before the show started. He said, glutathione, it's the most important antioxidant you've never heard of. It's what protects you from the diseases you fear the most. And then he and Dr. Oh, shoot. I'm forgetting the name of the other doctor, but he was Yale's head of disease prevention. They did the show and proved that low glutathione creates oxidative stress, which opens the gateway to all these diseases: heart disease, diabetes, pulmonary diseases, fibrosis, you name it, neurological disorders, liver disease, all of those, low glutathione levels. And so at the time that that show aired, which was about 20 years ago, there weren't a lot of alternatives. But glutathione itself is what's called the master antioxidant. How do antioxidants work? Well, that free radical has this desire to scavenge an electron from the cell. An antioxidant provides a free electron that it can hijack. And when it hijacks that free electron or goes to hijack it, the antioxidant can sequester or capture that free radical. So antioxidants can win. Now, the problem is there's a whole spectrum of free radicals. Some are based from the hydrogen in our body, some from the oxygen, some from the nitrogen. And all antioxidants except glutathione are monofocus. That means that they can take out one type of free radical, but they leave all the others. So vitamin C, a great antioxidant, can take out that one, but it leaves all these bad boys. Vitamin E is another great one. It takes out that, but it leaves all of those. CoQ10, superoxide dismutase, catalase. They're all good, but they're all monofocus. Glutathione is called the master antioxidant for two reasons. Number one, it can sequester and neutralize all free radicals, all of them, regardless of their structure, their chemical composition, um, or their source. And it's the only one that can. The other reason it's called the master antioxidant, it is the most abundant in your body. It's manufactured by every cell in your body, and you have roughly 37 trillion cells. So right now, you have over 37 trillion glutathione factories operating around the clock, 24 hours a day, to try to produce more glutathione. Now, the problem is, as we age, our glutathione levels decline by 8 to 15% per decade. So I'm 77. I'll be 78 in August. So I'm actually closer to 78 now. I have less than 60. I have 65% less glutathione than I had at the age of 20. And if you're 50 years old, 30, 40, 50, you have minimally 30% less than you had at the age of 20. But the demand never goes down. The demand, the need goes up. So your need for glutathione is increasing, your available glutathione is decreasing, and that deficit opens up the gateway to 78 classes of disease. Every bad boy you're afraid of, it opens up. In fact, you can Google glutathione and then you put any disease in, lymphatic cancer and cardiovascular disease and neurological disease and dementia. You can glutathione and guess what? It will show you studies on that because it's related to everything. Glutathione not only governs your health, it impacts your longevity, it impacts your quality of life. I mean, I'm 77. One of my kids, when he was 10 years old, said, Dad, you got to live to 94. And I said, why, Ryan? And he said, well, because if you lived to 94, and then he went through all seven of my kids and how old they would be. And he got to the youngest one, Hallie. He said, Hallie will still be a little young, but I'll take care of her. And so 94 is the target. But I want to be like this at 94. I don't want to be, hello, kids. I'm sorry, Grandpa would like to talk to you right now, but I'm kind of tired. Can you leave? No, I want to be able to do things with my grandkids and my great grandkids and my kids. I'm really grateful to God for what He's given me and the fact that right now, I still have my vitality. In fact, I started my workout program. Woohoo! I started last week and today I do it every other day on, of course, the Total Gym. The Total Gym was one of our breakthrough products that we took worldwide and sold billions of dollars of those. But I got on the Total Gym. I got a 14-minute workout and I'm able to work out my whole upper body in that amount of time. Plus, I can work out my legs. And that's really important to me because my knees were starting to get really weak, the back of my knees, and I'd have to go in and get adjustments and stuff. But I want to stay like this. I don't want to hit 80 or 85 or 90 and be completely out of commission if the Lord so grants me a longer life. Um, Glutathione is a key. I couldn't get through a day without glutathione. I know there are people on this call that feel the same. I know Phoebe can't get through a day. If I forget to take glutathione on a trip, I have to call the office and have them Federal Express it to me. Okay, I need it that much. Well, we developed the problem with glutathione is molecule size. Glutathione itself, if we take this and we'll say that this is the diameter of a cell, it's about 100 nanometers. One strand of your hair is 80,000 nanometers thick, to put it in comparison. So cells are very tiny. And the pore in that cell, in those cells, averages around 10 nanometers. So good news, glutathione molecule is only 0.8 nanometers. So it's less than 1 nanometer. So glutathione, if it runs across, if it could get over to that pore, can go right in. It's called passive diffusion. There's no energy requirement. It goes in, the cell says, I need that, and it grabs it right out of the water. It's so cool. But because glutathione breaks up in the tummy, in the digestive tract, you can't get it to the cells unless you wrap it. So to get around that, manufacturers have taken the glutathione molecule, that beautiful less than 1 nanometer molecule, and they've wrapped it in fats, vegetable fats usually, uh, lipids, and that's called liposomal encapsulation. And it will get it through the stomach. That's the good news. The bad news is look how big it's gotten. The smallest liposomes for encapsulation of glutathione are 55 nanometers, but the average is around 300 nanometers. So here you've got that tiny little hole, and you've got this big fist that will not, no matter what you want to do, it won't go in. So what happens is the liposome sits on top of the cell or is squeezed up to the side of the cell, and it requires energy, outside energy, to push it into that cellular wall, into the membrane. So some of it gets pushed in, and then some of it that survives that may end up in the cytoplasm, but it's very inefficient. It's like trying to ride a bicycle uphill in high gear. You'd pedal real fast and you'd go real slow, and you may or may not make it to the top. Well, we came up with an idea many years ago to, instead of wrapping the molecule in a fat, wrapping it in water clusters, little envelopes of water. Now, that won't protect it through the stomach, but we don't care. Why? Because that particle size is so tiny that it will absorb right into your bloodstream through the mucous membranes in your cheeks, the mucosa, and in the venous cavity under your tongue. So what you do, you just swish it, and it goes right into the bloodstream. From the time it enters the bloodstream until it exits the bloodstream into the cell, watch this, watch how easy that is about 50 to 60 seconds. It's one pass of circulation. And we had a scientist from another company challenge us and say, there is no way you're getting that molecule into the cytoplasm, directly in. We knew we were. We had already done, one of our science board members had done genetic testing with genetic expression and radical changes, positive changes. And those changes can't take place unless you're into the cytoplasm. They don't take place just by rubbing up against the cellular wall. And so we already knew, but we went ahead and we paid the world's leading testing firm for live cell testing. They're in 63 countries, 60,000 employees. They do 450 million tests a year, and they are the authority. Well, we said, let's see. Here's our product. We sent it to them. Good news came back. The earliest they can test a cell is 5 minutes after it touches the membrane. Then they test at the 10-minute, 15-minute, and so on. At the 5-minute mark, we were already in the cytoplasm. They couldn't believe it. And we were there in abundance. And some of the cells, they actually created a 35% deficit of glutathione. And those were the cells, bam, where we got the biggest delivery. They were amazed. It's almost like the cells that don't need it say, okay, because it's carried by water. Okay, water, you can keep going. I've got all the glutathione I need. But the cells that need it, which are most of our cells, sucked it right up, filled up. They had never seen anything like it. Their head scientist was so blown away that they came to us and said, we think you could do the same thing with some drugs. There's a lot of drugs out there that cannot get into the cytoplasm without a carrier, and the carrier can cause side effects. If you could ever get into the cell with a drug without a carrier, oh my gosh, big breakthrough, and they want to test that. So anyway, we get into the cell, and that's the good news. And we knew it long before it was tested because we see outcomes that nobody else sees. Nobody, no nutritional company has ever seen the outcomes. The first thing I wanted to test, we developed this, had it almost fully developed in 2018. So I knew that it would really make a difference with athletic performance and recovery. So I gave it to one athlete. He was so blown away by what happened that night. I got to see what time, his nightly workout was an hour on a treadmill running at a 25-degree incline, and then jumping from that treadmill to a rowing machine in intense rowing for the next hour. He was 28 years old. He'd been doing that workout for 10 years. Well, he calls me right after the workout and said, Steve, this is the most unbelievable thing I've ever done. I said, well, why do you say that? And he said, well, number one, when I finish the treadmill, my knees are highly inflamed and hurting. Tonight, they were no inflammation, no hurting. I couldn't believe it. And he said, then when I finish the whole workout, I have enough energy to walk to the bedroom and fall on the bed. I finished the workout, and within 10 minutes, I felt so good, I thought I could do it again. Well, the next morning, he called me and he said, it's even bigger than I thought. I said, why? He says, for the first time in 10 years, I woke up, I wasn't sore, I didn't need a roller for my legs, I didn't need the normal 20 minutes of stretching that I do, and I didn't need 20 minutes of yoga. He says, I was ready to go right out of bed. He said, I've never seen anything like this. Well, that was the very first athlete that tested it. And it was the day after, it was Memorial Day, which is a holiday here in the US, of 2018. Well, I sent it to another athlete, a guy named Bill Gillespie. Michael, you want to pull up Bill Gillespie? There's Bill. Now, Bill was a national U.S. champion in the shot put in college, two-time champion. And then, but he was also an amateur weightlifter since he was 14. Bill was a legend in strength and conditioning. In fact, we talked to a guy that we were put on the phone with, and he bench presses. He's an older guy, and he bench presses 450 pounds. And I said, have you ever heard of Bill Gillespie? He said, have I heard of him? He's a legend. Now, why is he a legend? I'll show you. Let's go to the chart. Okay, so as you can see, at the age of 49, that was in 2008, Bill set a world record for an amateur. Amateurs mean they can't have any drug assistance whatsoever. He benched 804 pounds, which is about 350 kilos. And that was in 2008. Well, I called him in 2018. How you doing? He had become strength and conditioning coach for a Super Bowl winning professional football team, the Seattle Seahawks. And he says, well, the job's great, but I'm not doing so good. I said, what's going on? He says, well, he said, I've lost a lot of lean muscle as you age. I'm 59 years old. I used to my recovery's real slow. I used to be able to lift heavy 4 times a week. Now I can only do it once a week because of the slow recovery. And my lift is in the toilet. I said, what's the toilet? He says, about 700, a little over 700 pounds. And I said, Bill, for a 59-year-old, that's a lot of weight. He says, yeah, world record for a 59-year-old, but I don't get to compete with the elite guys anymore because they're all pushing 800, 900, 950 pounds. And so I said, well, wait until you see what we've got. I sent him the product, told him how to use it, and here's what happened. Before he turned 60, now this was in June of 2018, he hit 915 pounds Then at 60, his bench went up to 1,060 pounds. He was able to lift, his recovery was so fast that he was able to lift heavy 4 and 5 times a week again. He developed more lean muscle. His lean muscle actually increased. It had been decreasing for 10 years. And then his bench at the age of 60 was 1,050 pounds. And at his retirement meet at the age of 62 in 2022, he successfully benched 1,129.8 pounds or 512 kilos. And he is a legend, okay? Now, all that happened when he started on product. And people say, how can a 62-year-old lift 40% more weight than he lifted in his prime? The answer is when you reduce oxidative stress, inflammation in the cells goes down. Accelerated aging decelerates. Uh, when you reduce oxidative stress, every cell, tissue, organ in your body can now work more efficiently. And that's exactly what happens. And nothing reduces oxidative stress like glutathione. In fact, one of our doctors on our science board, they all serve for free, by the way, um, has 25 sports medicine clinics in Europe. And he discovered with their elite runners that it was delaying the onset of lactic acidosis by 16.7%. And I said, is that good? And Dr. Osorio said, is that good? He said, nothing else in the world can move the needle even 1%. He said, this is the biggest game changer for endurance athletes ever. And all of his clients for their 25 facilities throughout Europe are either professional athletes or world-class amateur athletes. At the last World Championship, 2 of the top 3 finishers were his athletes. So for athletes, it made this huge difference. Well, one of the athletes was in a 100-mile bike race. It's 2018 still. And at mile 37, she got into a collision, went airborne, hit the pavement so hard it broke her helmet, knocked her out. Her face hit the pavement at 23 miles an hour. Cuts, abrasion, road rash, scabs, cuts, needing stitches, everything. She was knocked out. She woke up in the hospital. Well, the plastic surgeon sees her and says that's going to take 5 weeks to clear. And then we're going to wait 60 days, and you'll come to my office 60 days after the clearing, and we will create a protocol for dealing with your scars. Well, she swished while she was in the hospital because she was having some situations and she thought swish would help, and it did. She gets home and she thinks, hey, these are nanoparticles, small particles. Maybe it will help my face to clear faster. So she poured some on a cotton ball on Tuesday night, applied it, and then she did that 3 times on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. By Sunday, her face was completely clear, not a mark, not a scar. The plastic surgeon said she had never seen anything like this. Well, now we know that that's the norm, not the exception. We've had a lot of people send us pictures of tremendous wounds, and it's kind of mind-boggling. Well, once again, that's the power. In fact, the previous company that I founded was a glutathione-oriented company. They didn't have a glutathione per se in a product, but they had taken one of the precursing peptides, cysteine, and found a way to protect that cysteine through the stomach. And they had great results. Well, a heart surgeon heard that it was really lowering inflammation. He was a Harvard heart surgeon, but was also a PhD in biochemistry. His name was Dr. Alan Saltman. And he requisitioned some material, and they did. Since that's not our company, I can show you some pictures. Here, I'm going to show them real quick if I can find, there it is, photos. Let me Okay, you're going to like this. So this was published in the American Journal of Surgery because it was such a big breakthrough. So he did this wound. Let's see if I can show. Where is it? Camera. Okay, I'm going to unblur my camera. Hold on. See, you get to see this. Since it's not our product, I can show it because it's not, we're not claiming it. Blur. Okay. So he did that wound on uh, 108 genetically engineered rats. So they're all identical twins. And then, of course, they staple the wound. And these rats received the rats that didn't get that product, which was called ribsis, that was their wound at the 7-day mark. The rats that got ribsis got at the 7-day mark. Are you ready? All gone, no wound. It healed the wounds in half the time, and they were oral doses of this substance called ribsis, which only increases the amount of cysteine gets into the cell, produces more glutathione, oxidative stress goes down, inflammation goes down. So, so we weren't taken by surprise that this cyclist wounds healed so quickly, and now we see it's unbelievable. I mentioned our medical advisory board. This is just a portion, but Harvard, Mayo Clinic, Stanford, Texas Heart Institute, Sloan Kettering, Cleveland Clinic, Harvard, and that's just a portion. These are highly pedigreed, if you want to call it that, scientists and doctors, and they fell in love with our product because they were seeing things they had never seen with anything else, using it off label. Well, when I saw what happened to Tammy's face, let's see how much time. Okay, we're going to do this in 4 minutes. I saw what happened to Tammy's face, and it was amazing. I've owned 5 cosmetic companies, and I thought, oh my gosh, we probably have the world's best skincare product. And so I put some in spray bottles, sent it out to about 8 women, and said, spray your face 5 times a day for 8 weeks, and take before and after photos. So here's the very first photo that came back. And this is a 59-year-old. She was about to turn 60. And that was the result of spraying 5 times a day for 7 weeks. Well, when I saw that, I knew it was a huge breakthrough. Michael, can you scooch in on that a little bit or not? Oh, thank you. Okay. So I sent that picture to my former formulator of one of my cosmetic companies. He had become the head formulator for Allergan, which created Botox. He saw that picture and he said, come on, Steve, she's had a facelift. There's no topical product in the world that can do that. Botox can't even do that. I said, no, she owns a farm, works the farm. No scalpel, no laser, no procedure has ever touched her face. That is the result of our product. He said, then you have something that nobody else in the world has. Now, why am I going to show you this one and a few more? Because the same biochemical activity that glutathione performs on the biggest organ in your body, your skin, it performs it in all of your cells, your heart cells, your brain cells, your liver cells, your kidney cells, your lung cells. And that's the good news. So it's not just proof that we got the world's best skincare, which we do, but that the glutathione is doing what it's supposed to do at a cellular basis in the various organs, tissues, joints, everything. Okay, so let's look at a few more of these. We'll go fast. Those were my hands back then. I was 71 and I sprayed my right hand 12 times a day, or no, for 12 weeks, 5 times a day, 4 to 5 times a day. I didn't spray my left hand. And look at the difference. Anti-aging beyond belief. This is an 84-year-old. When I saw this, that's very radical for 4 weeks. And I said, how many times a day did you spray? She said, I don't know. I lost count. I have bottles all over the house. And when I'd pass one, I'd spray. Well, look what it did in 4 weeks. It took at least 25 years off. This is another 84-year-old. This lady is from Greece. And she said, I had old lady legs. Now I have young lady legs. Look at that. That was 10 weeks. Next. Okay, this was an esthetician. She owns a skincare spa in Miami, Florida. She said, Steve, I can't wait 8 weeks. Look what it did in 8 days. Look how it brightened my skin. Where did my pores go? Look how much smoother. Look at my eyes, how it opened up my eyes. And she's right. Let's go to the next one. Okay, I love this. We met this lady. She came into the office, but she didn't look like this. She looked like the next slide. Okay, on the right, that's her after 6 months. The middle picture is after 1 month. We thought, Aaron, Ryan, and I thought she was probably around 42. She's 60 years old. And here's what we do. You want to write these down. We tighten, brighten, smooth, and basically make the skin look younger. And it's happening not just at the surface. This is the result of the skin getting healthier over time with our product. Now, this lady sprayed for 6 months and it's radical different. Next. Almost done. Okay, this guy's 67. Once again, brighter. And this was all in the same room, same light. Brighter, tighter, younger looking, smoother. Those are the adjectives every woman wants, every man wants, but they usually don't get. Okay, that's 10 days. That's freaky fast. Next, Jimmy Johns. This girl, this is 10 days, and she's young, but look how it evened out her skin tone. Look how it decreased the appearance of her pores. I mean, it really smoothed her face in 10 days. Next. Okay, this is an 80-year-old. And back then, now she's 87, had a birthday recently. And look what it did for her in 3 weeks. She couldn't believe it. Next. Okay, 65-year-old who was a smoker, or 67, I think. She was a smoker, and that's why the hard wrinkles in her neck. And that was after 8 weeks. Next. We're almost done. 6 days, that's remarkable. And I'm sure she sprayed a lot. Next. Some of these ladies are also swishing. This is a doctor's mother in Nigeria, and the melon production, melanin became highly managed, and that's why the blackness in the upper half of her face disappeared. And of course, she looks younger and healthier. Next, 4 weeks. Next. Okay, next. Okay, this guy's 94, and he says, I love the new look. But more importantly, I feel like the guy on the right instead of the guy on the left. And he said, I love his products changed my whole life. We'll look at one more because this lady, I love her. I met her in Hungary. She's 87 years old, and that was in 7 weeks. I said, how often did you spray? She said, I did exactly what you said, 5 times a day for 7 weeks. And look at, she easily took 25, 30 years off of her face. I mean, that was remarkable. Okay, we're done. We're just about, oh, that was an 85-year-old man. Why do we show you this? Because we change people's lives. We manufacture the product in-house so we can keep the prices down and the commissions high. And you're the only way we can reach the world. We're in 75 countries, about 230,000 associates, NUMMI family members, as we call them. It doesn't cost anything to join on purpose. We made it that way. We don't want to charge you for joining. We want you to help us get this product to the world. We had one lady recruit in Omaha, Nebraska, recruited a lady in Canada. And when she recruited her, she thought, I'm not that good at selling and recruiting and all that stuff. The white lady she recruited ended up having distributors she recruited, and her organization grew to over 5,000 people on every continent except Antarctica. By the way, now we are in Antarctica with Russian explorers using the product. So I hope that you'll talk to the person that asked you this call. They can tell you more. And the nice thing about this business, everybody has a mentor. You only come in through other people. And if you ask for their help, they'll help you lay out your business. We provide a lot of videos and everything, and it's all provided free in the back office. We're working on things that we're going to be introducing very soon that are kind of mind-boggling as far as business building goes, and we hope you'll all avail yourself to that. So with that, I'll say good night. God bless you all, and it's so good to see you. And once again, Phoebe, I'm sorry I missed St. Patrick's Day with you, and I won't miss again if I'm still here next year. And we will see you all soon. Michael, thank you for hosting it tonight. As always, you're amazing. And we have are you going to say anything about our convention coming up? Go ahead. Okay. I'm turning it over to Michael.
I didn't want to interrupt, buddy. So, guys, in the chat, I've just put a link, and directly under that, I've just put a special code which will get you a discount if you're booking into our 5th anniversary event in Barcelona. So basically, that event will be a culmination of the first 5 years of this company, which is phenomenal. In fact, I'm just going to show you when you click on that link exactly where you'll end up. You'll end up on this page here. And we're going to be launching some spectacular stuff at this event that you do not want to miss. So when you click the button here from the link that says get tickets, then you'll be able to enter in, as I said, that code that's written in there. And the code is, someone's commented, so it's gone up the chat a bit, Members Night, all one word in capital letters. So put that in there. You'll get your tickets at a discount. And trust me when I say I've had a sneak leak, we'll call it, of what's coming in that event. You do not want to miss the Barcelona 5th anniversary event for anything. So look